All right, everybody, let's take a deep breath. Let's slow down for just a little bit. The Cowboys survive 27-23 over the Houston Texans at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Welcome into the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper as the Cowboys get it done in the final drive of the ball game. 11 plays, 98 yards. It wasn't pretty, but the Cowboys get their 10th win of the season, 10-3 now on the 22 campaign. Alongside Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. Barry, where do we start? There's a lot to talk about in this game, but really in the end, it's survive and advance.
Look, at the end of the day, a win is a win. We all understand how hard it is to win football games in the National Football League, and that's exactly what the Dallas Cowboys were able to do. They were able to walk away with the win. Defensively, it wasn't their best performance, but I still feel as though they gave this team an opportunity to win. They made plays when the chance and when it mattered most, and they were able to get the ball back to their offense. Offensively, I'm going to let my counterparts right here discuss the offense, but they look kind of out of whack to me, Isaiah.
You want to do this the easy way? Or you want to do it the hard? Hey, okay, I see they want to do the hard way. Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys chose the hard way today, and I don't know why they did that. In the process of that, they may have lost one of their most influential players in the form of Big Jonathan Hankins on the defensive front. I hope he's okay because he was just coming along and figuring things out and really bringing up that rush defense. Offensively, Dak, we got to clean it up. We talked about it in the pregame show. He had a lot of errant throws, a lot of balls where he was just trying to force the ball in there. Timing was bad. The reading of coverages is not on point. Yes, he brought him back in that last drive, and he was the man that you always expect him to be. But everything else in between there, you got to clean up as you start looking to some of these tougher opponents.
21 first downs, 400 total yards, over 53% on, 8 for 15 on third downs. Turnovers. First with the young Turpin. Turpin. Yep. That was his first one. Then Dak with the 2 interceptions. That is what I fear. When you play teams of this lack of talent like the Texans, this is what I fear. You play down and you make it a struggle. This should not have been a struggle.
Dallas came out and got off to a hot start. I mean, it's hard to remember because of how the game ended up going. However, they came out, scored on their opening drive. They used the ground game. Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott pounded it all the way down the field and got into the end zone. Then you had a quick 3-and-out. Kevontae Turpin on the special teams return, on the punt return, fumbled the ball, muffed the punt. Houston recovers, and then that point forward, it started to snowball. How do you avoid playing down to your competition in a level like that? Dallas, by far, on paper, and you could see throughout the game, were the better team, but those mistakes start to compound at some point. How do you avoid those?
Well, it starts earlier in the week, and that's what surprised me about this team overall. Usually, Mike McCarthy, throughout this entire season, has had this team up and ready to play each and every week. No team has really snuck up on this team throughout the regular season, but today it seemed like they were sleepwalking a little bit early and late into the game. And when we talk about that offense, I know I was, not with, putting Tyron Smith back into the lineup and all that, but that offensive line kind of struggled today. They were able to get pressure on Dak Prescott. We saw a lot of errant throws out there, so maybe it would be a good idea to get Big 77 back into the lineup.
You talk about the preparation and yes. Leading up to the game. I believe they didn't have shoulder pads on that one time this week. I think that was my understanding. So knowing that, these guys were going to start off slow because they weren't being physical all week long. And you think you could just show up to the game and play against a professional athlete and think that you're just going to dominate them. That was not the case. You saw some of that lulling over from the week prior to kind of carry over to this game today. And then these guys just did not run the ball. That has been the formula for success, right? Kellen Moore's been doing a great job learning from Mr. McCarthy, and everything's been going well because they had 200 yards on the ground last week. And then all of a sudden you want to start throwing the ball all over the place and you start having some of those errors. Just because your QB1 is a QB1, it doesn't mean that he's free of making these mistakes. He's been doing it all year long. Take it out of his hands, keep it on the ground.
I just think when you practice, you got to prepare for success, and they didn't look like they prepared for success. I agree, but all the stats line up except one, and it's turnovers. When you turn the ball over, it gives the other team fire, and all through the game, once they was getting momentum, it's a head go a turnover, and that's what helped this team, the Texan team. And if this team clean up the turnovers, and I mean that little forcing of the ball and being aggressive, it's time to be smart. Stop with the forcing of the balls and all that right there. Get smart because this is a defense-led team. This is not an offense-led team. Running is conducive to the defense, not the stats. So that's what we got to do. We got to start running the ball, not having these errant throws, and this team will be all right.
62 yards for Ezekiel Elliott, 42 for Tony Pollard. You got to give credit where credit is due, though, for Houston. They fought hard. The defense was playing downhill. They were hitting. Jalen Petrie, rookie out of Baylor, probably had the best game of his young career today. He was playing really well. But then on the offensive side, the offensive line side for Houston, didn't allow a single sack against this Cowboys team. That might be the first time all year, I have to go back and check, that Dallas has not registered a sack. So defensively, Dallas gave up some opportunities there for Houston, and they did a good job of trying to combat it as well.
Yeah, they did. They did a great job. Houston had a great game plan. I loved what Lovie Smith did with his 2-quarterback system out there, rotating those guys. And what both of those guys did, they took advantage of what the defense was given. They didn't force anything down the field. There wasn't any shots being taken. But if there was a back in the backfield open, they swung it to him. If there was a check down from the tight end, they swung it to him. They kept the ball on their offensive side of the ball, kind of wearing down on this defense. I would love to look at the time of possession to see where it was at, but I feel like Houston did a great job of keeping that defense on the field and tiring them out.
The Houston offense ran the ball 37 times. They threw it 27 times. Right? We knew that you had to stop Dameon Pierce if you wanted to have any shot at winning this ball game, and they did so for the most part. They held him to 78 yards, but that was a strategy. Let's go ahead and keep this clock moving. Let's give it. They did a great job of forcing some turnovers, and ultimately they stuck to their game plan. Dallas had more talent, and that worked out in the end. But in terms of having a game plan and executing it, they did a good job. The Texans did.
Time of possession was 33-14. That's what the Texans had. I just keep going over and over. You know, we've played on Super Bowl winning teams. We've played on teams that have went to the AFC Championship. You have to start at some point being who you are and enhancing that every week. And we've been coming out with the slow starts. That is not who I hope the Cowboys are, because in another week or two, you're going to face somebody that's equal talent. You have to start picking your game up. And you know what? We had 2 injuries. Well, 1 injury. And then we had brung in Ball. Ball is not the answer. We should have had Peterson in at the beginning. He's a veteran guy. He can go through these things a little bit better. So now, yes, we may have to bring it back to Big Iron Man 77. Yes.
By the way, our research department in the back has now confirmed the fact this was the first time Dallas has been held without a sack all season long defensively. So you survive, you advance. You keep your thought and you keep your hopes alive for the NFC East title as we take a look at some of the final stats. The Cowboys now at 10-3, but they just barely squeaked by in this one. 27-23 the final score. Houston dominates the time of possession, and of course they were able to run the football pretty effectively with both Dameon Pierce and Jeff Driscoll at the quarterback position. Those 2 guys leading the way for Houston, but Dallas comes out on top. We've got more post-game coverage on the way here from DallasCowboys.com. There is the scrum outside of the Cowboys locker room talking to Jerry Jones. We'll hear a little bit from him a little bit later on Cowboys Game Night and Cowboys OT. The Cowboys win it 27-23, and that does it for the First Word, presented by Dr. Pepper.